I'm Jess Dakotas.
And I'm Nick Colziel. Welcome to That Sounds Terrifying, the podcast where we share terrifying stories, we share listener experiences, and we visit virtually some of the most haunted places in the United States and the world. Hey, everybody, welcome back to That Sounds Terrifying. I'm Nick, and joining with me, as always, is Jess.
Hi.
Welcome back. Hi, Jess. It's been so long, I feel like.
I know. Been
So,
busy.
yeah, our last episode, we had a little bit of fun going on kind of a choose your own adventure.
That was super fun.
Yeah, we're gonna have to come back to that again. And we didn't hear anything about doing or not doing voices. So I said if no one said anything, we're gonna be allowed to do voices and stuff now. So
I thought I had been right along, but
yeah,
that's
yeah. Well, now we have full approval by silence.
fabulous.
Awesome.
The
So we
silence.
both have stories today. Both are a little bit different, and one I think is going to be kind of, scary but also fun for Jess because it's sort of buying a new house themed for me. So, and then Jess has a story, and maybe we can start off with you, Jess. What do you think?
Mine's also about a haunted house. So,
Sweet.
yeah, let's start. Mine is from Reddit. Again, ghost stories. And it is by Bonnie Parker, 1964. So thank you, Bonnie Parker. This is a story my grandpa swore was true. When my grandpa was a young man, he worked for the railroad. He made good money, and being he wasn't married yet, he had a nice car for that time, and on the weekends, he liked to go out with his friends. He was headed back on a Friday and was running late to a dance that night. So he took a shortcut on a pretty curvy road. The sun was setting, and he was headed west, and when he broke up over a hill, he was speeding, and suddenly breaking over the top, he became blinded by the sun. But in the last second, could just make out that someone was standing in the road. He swerved to miss hitting the person, went off the road down into a ravine and slammed into a tree. He must have passed out because the next thing he remembered, he was hearing the voice of a young man saying, "Mister, mister, are you all right?" Grandpa said that his head was splitting and his knee felt like it was on fire, but he was alive. The kid helped him out of the car and gathered up Grandpa's duffel bag and helped him up the bank and sat him on the ground near the road. He could see an old house nearby, and Grandpa asked the kid if that was his house. The kid answered, "Yeah." It was when it was then that Grandpa noticed the boy had a hair lip and spoke with a strong lisp. He was a pudgy boy, pale and red-headed. He looked friendly enough, and when Grandpa asked him if he had had a phone in his house, the boy shook his head and said, "No phone." Grandpa asked if his folks were home, and he said nope, and he said he didn't know when they'd be back. Grandpa then asked how far the nearest neighbor was, and the boy said it was the last place he'd passed with the long white fence in front. Grandpa thought back and figured it had been about 6 miles or so. The boy said, "You can come to my house." So the boy helped Grandpa limp up the long driveway into the run-down old house. The house was cold, even though it was warm in June, and Grandpa could see there was no central heating or even a wood stove. But there was a large fireplace and a hearth in the kitchen. Grandpa asked if the house was always so cold, and the boy said, "I'm always cold." Grandpa said, "If you can go get some wood, I'll start a fire." And the boy came back with a big armload of wood. So Grandpa started a fire. And the wood was pretty dry, so in no time there was a big fire going. And the boy stood so close to it, rubbing his arms and soaking up the heat. And Grandpa said to him, "You better be careful, buddy. You're going to get burned." The boy only repeated, "I'm always cold." Grandpa asked the boy if he was hungry because he had had some sandwiches in his bag, but the boy said he'd already had his supper. Grandpa ate his sandwich while the boy stood even closer to the front of the fire. Too close for Grandpa's comfort, but he didn't say anything more. He looked around the house and it seemed like there hadn't been anyone there for a really long time. It started to get dark, and the boy turned from the fire and said, "You could sleep in my bed. I'll keep the fire going." And Grandpa says, "I don't want to put you out of your bed. And are you sure none of your neighbors won't be passing by? Maybe he could get help with his car." The boy said, "Nobody ever comes up this far. They're scared of ghosts." Grandpa said that shook him up a bit and said, "What ghosts?" The boy replied, "Everyone says there's ghosts here, but I never seen them. The only thing I'm scared of is nightmares." And Grandpa said, "You have nightmares?" The boy said, "Yep, every night, same dream. A giant hog chases me and tries to eat me, but I wake up." Grandpa asked him, "Did you ever get chased by a pig in real life?" And the boy said, "Yeah." He had picked up a sow's baby by its leg and shook it so it was squealing. And the pig chased him and knocked him down, and he got bit up pretty bad by that sow. Grandpa said, "Well, that's probably why you have nightmares." The boy just nodded his head in agreement. Grandpa said he was getting pretty tired and was hurting pretty bad, and he said, "Thank you for letting me sleep on your bed," which was over in the corner of the room near the fireplace. The boy said he'd keep the fire going and watch over Grandpa while he slept. Grandpa said he woke up with a start from the dream he had. He had had the exact same dream the boy had told him about, a huge sow chasing him, and he woke up just as the sow was about to attack him. The boy was still sitting there in front of the fireplace. There were only coals left, and the sun was coming up. Grandpa limped outside to take a pee off the front porch, and he said he could hear a tractor in the distance. He limped over to the field and waved his arm until the farmer saw him. He sat and waited because the farmer was a good distance away. He asked the farmer if he could pull his car out of the ravine, and the farmer said yes, and asked Grandpa if he was all right. He told him yes, and Grandpa rode on the wheel well of the tractor till they got to the place where he went off the road. The farmer asked him, kind of astonished, "How did you run off the road?" And Grandpa said, "Last night, just before sunset, there was someone in the road, and I steered to not hit him." The farmer replied, "Where did you spend the night?" Grandpa told him of the story about the boy and how he slept there that night. The farmer's face went white, and he said, "You slept there?" And Grandpa said, "Yes, why?" And the farmer said, "I've heard that place is haunted, but I never believed it." Grandpa said, "Well, the boy said everyone said they thought ghosts live in that house." And the farmer looked right at Grandpa and said, "Well, I guess they do, because that boy was killed by the family's sow over a year ago." The farmer said the family all moved down south right after the funeral. They were so overcome with grief, they couldn't stand living there in that house another day, and it's been empty ever since.
Awesome. That's an awesome story. Uh, Kind of reminds me there's the ghost helping people like in accidents and things like that, and dragging them out, and you don't know how you got out. And we even had that author on earlier, an earlier episode with the 9/11 where he was being kind of told to kind of keep going and get up and stuff. Not really a ghost, but that kind
Mm.
of a thing.
Mm.
But I've never heard a story that's like been like that long where it like lasted like overnight.
Overnight.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that ghost had like a lot of energy. I don't know where it was getting all that energy from.
Yeah.
to to stay like I don't know, maybe just from the house itself. But I just yeah, I don't know. I think maybe, it could have been like the night of his death. It could have
Hmm.
been like I don't know. It was a cool story though, and as stories go, like, and grandpas embellish and things like that, but I liked it. I thought it was just
Hmm.
creepy enough, and one of those, like, it was almost like Are You Afraid of the Dark-esque sort of
Yeah.
style,
Yeah.
which is my favorite kind of ghost story.
Yeah. I mean, you could kind of read where it was going and stuff like that, but it still
Yeah.
didn't make it that, any worse of a story. I mean, it was still good. It was real. Yeah. I do like Are You Afraid of the Dark kind of a
Mm-mm.
thing. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome pick.
It makes me so sad though for the kid and the
Yeah.
he was eaten by a pig.
Right?
But also he shouldn't have been mean to animals. So I was kind of
Yeah.
like, ugh. I mean,
Yeah.
he didn't deserve to die, but
Yeah. No, that's definitely true. We have a pet pig. I think you know
mm,
that, right?
which is fascinating to me.
Yeah. And for the longest time, he lived in the house and everything. And then he got to be, pigs are extremely smart.
Hmm.
They're also extremely stubborn. So like we would like he loved Cheerios. That was his favorite, I mean still is, his favorite snack.
Hmm.
And all in our house, all of our cereals are on the bottom shelf inside of a cabinet. And so he figured out how to open the cabinet and then we just find him like inside the entire box of cereal. So then we like got child safety locks on the cabinets and he
Yeah.
decided, you know what? I'm just gonna rip the whole door off the cabinet. So he ripped the whole door off the cabinet and started eating into, the Cheerios and anything else that was in there.
They are
Um,
strong. They
yeah,
are so strong. If he could rip the cabinet door off,
yeah.
how did he even get that? How did he even do that?
He got a hold of it somehow. They do have like, he had them not fully like, but we cut down his tusks.
Uh-huh.
And they don't grow in probably as big as, because they're kind of fixed, they're neutered in the beginning.
Yeah.
So they don't grow in as probably dominant as some of other like boars that you'd see. But so we're constantly cutting those back. But he can kind of angle in and like pull at things, and they have very strong teeth. They can grind down bone. Um,
Oh,
so like yeah. But we had the person that we got it from doesn't breed them anymore, but she had a story about how someone had built a dog crate type thing in the corner of their house and basically the pig decided that it wanted to, get out, so it didn't go through the gate. It like bored a hole through the wall, like through and went out the other side of the wall. So yeah, so we decided we built him a nice enclosure in our barn and everything, and he's got chicken as a guest. But yeah, I could imagine if he gets hungry enough, he might eat you.
that's so scary. But yeah, I mean, poor baby.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, I would never eat bacon again if I had a pet pig.
Oh well, I have a story for you about that
Oh no.
too. My daughter, she loved bacon. She loved all types of food, and it was her pig. And one day she's sitting there, she's got a plate full of bacon, and she's like using her feet to pet her pig, and she's eating bacon, and she's like, "Daddy, I'm petting my pigum, and I'm eating a pigum." And it wasn't long after that she decided that she's a vegetarian. So
Yeah,
but it was funny because she was so excited about it, but then I think it finally dawned on her,
it hit her. Yeah.
yeah. So,
That my
yeah.
son too. My son learned that chicken was a real chicken,
Mm,
and he was like, "I'm done." And then he started asking like, "What's beef?" No,
yeah.
no more beef. What's,
Yeah.
and he's a vegetarian.
It's like
So we
half our
just pump him
half our
full of
family.
peanut butter. And
Tofu.
he's so picky. He's such a
Mhm.
picky eater. So like, yeah, I'm like, here's some peanut butter, here's some refried beans, here's some,
Yeah.
the vegetarian refried beans too. My husband got,
Yeah.
I sent him to the store and I'm like, get refried
Maple
beans.
cured
And
or
he came
whatever.
home with the regular refried beans. I'm like, there's meat in this. It's like, they're
Bacon
beans.
bits.
They're beans. I'm like, no, there's
There's
lard.
bacon
That's
bits in it.
animal.
Yeah.
You
Don't
can't
tell
feed
him.
this to your vegetarian son.
That is, yeah, and it's funny because that does come up like after a while they're like, wait, beef broth has beef in it?
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
or like and then like you have to start thinking like poultry seasonings and like is poultry seasonings have poultry in it?
Poultry.
No.
I think it is. It's
It
dried. It's like
it
chicken bone, right?
I don't think it does. Like certain
No.
ones might, but I think it's just the seasonings that you put in like a turkey or chicken. But
Oh, okay. You don't mean like the the dried poultry stock
No,
stuff.
not that.
No.
No, just
Okay.
like the spice. Like there's
Yeah.
something called poultry seasoning, but whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
that sounds terrifying. Learn cooking
yeah.
tips
To cooking
here.
tips: how to cook your pig and eat your pig and pet a pig.
Oh, that is terrifying,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, yeah. Well, we it wouldn't be a That Sounds Terrifying episode if we didn't go off on a couple tangents.
It's
So,
true. All right,
so
I digress. Without further ado, tell us your
yeah.
story, Nick.
So mine is written by Zacharias Frost, okay? And it's 11 rules for idiots who bought a haunted house. Okay. So there's a little bit of build up and backstory about this. And I'm gonna say that he talks about a friend and he doesn't really seem to be this guy's friend.
Well,
So
I would just like to add a disclaimer that none of these people were my clients because if they were, they would not have bought the haunted house. Okay,
right, right,
continue.
right. Yeah, well, these are the rules. Some of them seem kind of obvious, but we'll get right into it now. So, it kind of starts off like an infomercial, so I might kind of get into that. Well, you've really screwed up this time, didn't you? You found a gnarly deal on a beautiful home that almost seemed too good to be true, and you jumped at it. And now that you're all moved in, you've started to notice some anomalies. So, you know the type. The spooky, dooky anomalies of the supernatural persuasion, bumps in the night, doors opening and closing by themselves, auditory hallucinations of voices and whispers. It's more common than you may think, but not everybody realizes the danger. I feel like the dun 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 has to be in there. Dun dun dun.
Hmm.
Yeah, these signs could be proof that some forsaken lost souls inhabit your property. Maybe the previous grandmother is in the attic. Maybe dear old dad went suddenly insane and repainted the house with the blood of his children. Or mom tried seducing demons in the basement. If these seem like even vaguely familiar to you, then you're looking at the good old internet for help and you've come to the right place. You see, I I have this, well, had this friend named Nathan. A couple months back, Nathan found a house for sale in southern Georgia. It was nestled along a remote stretch of woods just outside of Waycross. It was a historical area, an old colonial style home with just under 5,000 square feet, six bed, six bath, and white picket fences, and a dozen acres. The quintessential American dream house by all accounts. The price, however, was unbelievably low. But after Nathan contacted the real estate agent, he found that the price that he had seen listed was indeed the price that had been asked. And so most people, I imagine, would have seen a red flag here, but Nathan was an idiot. The confident type of idiot that believed machoism is substantial for conquering all of life's obstacles.
Ugh.
And no, it is not too kind to speak ill of the dead like that. Spoiler alert. Well,
Oh no.
he already said that, honestly. But I'm just trying to give an accurate portrayal of the kind of person Nathan was. You know, the alpha male who hits on your girlfriend, lives at the gym, probably spanks his meat to his own selfies. Ugh. For people like Nathan, friend is really just another word for ego reinforcer. He was cocky and often let pride get the better of him. His wife Janelle was actually my ex-girlfriend from a while back. More foreshadowing.
Mm.
uh, she was a bit of a skank, but practically a supermodel. They had two kids, Natalie and Mason, who were both spoiled brats. Again, I'm just trying to give you an honest perspective of them in hopes that we may all learn something from what happened.
Hold on.
So,
Can I just stop you here for a second? The
mhm.
person telling the story sounds like a dude, bro. If he's
Yeah,
willing to call a woman a skink, like what the hell is wrong with you? Okay,
yeah,
sorry, continue.
yeah. He doesn't sound like a very upstanding individual.
No, he's not upstanding. He sounds
And
worse than Nathan. Okay,
yeah,
continue.
well, he's making fun of this guy, and he apparently is dead. So,
Yeah. Ugh.
and
Okay.
we continue. See what happened to Nathan, which I'll get into later. Was something I believe could have been easily avoided if you only followed a few simple instructions. After the funeral, I got to pondering on this matter and realized that we all really need a set of rules to follow if you believe your house is haunted. Let's begin. Rule number one: when looking to purchase or rent a house, always ask for the history. Odds are, if a house is being offered at way below market value, there's a good reason for that being that way. Nathan didn't do this. He thought the undermarket price was simply the universe handing him something he really didn't earn and jumped on it. And within a few weeks, he and his family were approved to begin moving in. I volunteered to help them move in, and I must be honest, the house was absolutely gorgeous. Things were great for them at first, but Nathan soon started noticing some odd occurrences. It started with this knocking sound that seemed to reverberate all over the house at odd hours. He said he could never seem to pinpoint where it was coming from, and never originated from the same place twice. Eventually, he chalked it up to the house settling, but that was just the beginning. Rule number 2: trust your gut. Your home is the last place you should feel uncomfortable. You get that inkling of discomfort in the back of your mind that never seems to fully dissipate. Pay attention to it. It's probably your subconscious trying to warn you. Nathan tried ignoring these sounds, told his wife that they were just normal, or the wind, or comforted his children when they felt scared. They had two dogs, Rusty and Sailor. Rusty and Sailor, really. Both of them black labs, and both of them seemed to be very anxious about after moving in. Nathan did his best to get medication to help the dogs relax, but it didn't seem to help much. This brings us to rule number 3. Along with your gut, which you should also trust, is your pets. Animals have instincts far greater than humans. It's said that man is the only creature who will sense danger and still wander into it. That's awesome. Animals have a sense for the supernatural, dogs and cats in particular. If you find them growling at what appears to be nothing or constantly staring into specific areas of the house, then pay attention to that. Odds are they can see something you can't. Nathan told me that Rusty, the older of the two dogs, would pace the hall each night for hours. He said it was like standing guard over something. On more than one occasion, Rusty suddenly blurted out into a ferocious bout of barking and snarling. Nathan came out into the hall, but he never would find anything. He grew concerned for Rusty and brought him to the vet, but the vet confirmed he was in good health. Meanwhile, Sailor, the younger dog, slept inside the side of Mason's bed each night and every night. The poor boy soon developed crippling nightmares that would torment him relentlessly, and Sailor seemed to sense it. Each time Mason would wake up screaming, Sailor would be there to comfort him. And that perfectly goes into our next rule. Rule number 4: beware the nightmares. Young children are similar to animals in the way that they can seem to be more perceptive to things that adults are not. The one thing this one can be difficult because there are many root causes for nightmares, like things like anxiety, depression, and other mental illnesses. The telltale sign is whether your child suddenly develops them soon after entering the home. Poor Mason was absolutely horrified and had these dreams night after night, and he would be tormented by them. He often spoke of the blurry man that came to him when he slept and whispered terrible things. He even said that sometimes he would see the blurry man when he was awake, but never for more than a quick glimpse, and always in the shadows or outside in the woods. Nathan and his wife worried that perhaps Mason was schizophrenic, but multiple doctors confirmed that this was not the case. They tried giving Mason sleeping pills, various supplements, and burned incense to help him sleep more peacefully. It worked for a while until Natalie started having them too. Rule number 5: try to determine what kind of spirit you're dealing with. If you see flashes of small child running through the halls at night or orbs spiraling in the air, then odds are your ethereal neighbor is just benign. Some people even discover that they rather enjoy life with a spectral roommate and find their antics to be rather interesting. Most believe that spirits who pass away before completing what their soul desired have been stuck in some sort of purgatory. Many are scared, confused, and angry. But some, primarily young children, seem to be jubilant at times. Most of these are unnerving, but altogether harmless. But then there's other spirits. Rule number 6: if any member of your family develop inexplainable bruises, cuts, or lesions, then do not take them lightly. This should be a massive red flag and a very bad sign. If you feel though as you're being attacked as you sleep and wake up with unexplained scratches or wounds, then just get the hell out of the house. Honestly, a malevolent spirit capable of inflicting physical wounds is not something to be trifled with. Odds are it's a demon, and honestly, that's the best case scenario. The other are related to entities that could be responsible as well. They're very rare, but if encountered well, I'm afraid even my handy set of rules won't be enough to stop them. Another dun dun dun. Natalie and Mason suffered from multiple scratch marks, wounds, and even a few bruises that looked like bite marks. Mason's wife, Janelle, was also subject to these attacks. The children's teachers at school began to notice and quickly became concerned for their safety. Obviously, their first thought was not paranormal, but rather that the children were being abused at home, and when social services threatened to remove the children from their custody, Nathan finally agreed to move them out of the house. Janelle and the kids moved in with their mother for a couple hours away, and Nathan was all alone with the dogs. Rule number 7: Let people know what's going on. Yes, I know the thought of admitting it to a close friend that you believe your house is haunted may be a daunting one, but usually it's better than the alternative. The modern world rarely takes these claims seriously. We put ghosts in movies and video games, but when someone actually claims to see one, we aren't so quick to believe them. Technology and science have led us to believe we are safe. That this is our folly, but it's also a topic for a different day. This is yet another rule that Nathan did not abide by. The worst thing that got him and his family the worse the things got for him and his family, the more secluded he became. On numerous occasions, he phoned the police saying that he believed someone had broken in, but they never found evidence of it. Eventually, they even put him on a blacklist and warned them any future contact would result in legal trouble. Rather than tell his parents or brother or any of his friends what was going on, he retreated into himself. He became fidgety and paranoid, at times refusing to return phone calls and texts from loved ones. He just broke contact and things only got worse. Rules 8 and 9 sort of come into the same category, although it's a little more extreme than the other. Rule 8, if you suspect something's up, it doesn't hurt to perform a cleansing. Like I said earlier, the modern world has little time to entertain the notion of ghosts and supernatural, but that shouldn't ward you off. If you're unsure of what your home is being haunted or not, then a routine cleansing can do wonders for you. I'm willing to bet there are mediums and priests in your town that just can get the job done. Even if you can't find anyone local, you can always go online and find instructions for yourself. It may not be as effective that way, but it's better than nothing. Rule 9. If you were really feeling as though you are in danger, get someone to perform an exorcism. It's the step that no one wants to take, but desperate times call for desperate measures. Priests and spiritual leaders are your go-to for kinds of things like this. Even if you yourself are not religious, these people honestly do know how to help. That there was some evidence that Nathan was attempting to do this, but it was unknown why exactly it didn't work out. Maybe he second guessed himself and thought he couldn't handle it, or maybe his ego took control over again. He had been collecting evidence for a while and had amassed quite a stash of clues. There were audio recordings which relayed the banging in the walls and footsteps in the attics. He took multiple videos, but none of them really showed anything except the last one. But by that point, it was too late. In his journal, he also wrote that he experienced items in the house levitating on several occasions, but sadly, he had no record of this. Rule number 10, the big one. Whatever you do, don't try to antagonize the spirit. This should really go without saying, but angrily challenging the spirit or daring it to manifest is a really bad idea. But as you may
Mm-hmm.
have guessed, Nathan and his unlimited stream of testosterone decided to do just that. He got really drunk one night and began thinking about all that happened. Nathan was always a skeptic, but even then, he couldn't ignore the psychological impact on his family and himself, whether imagined or not. He realized his relationship with his children and wife was heavily strained, and the new house had become a place of hostility, and it made him angry. Nathan stood up and shouted out at his empty house for the spirit to come forth and face him. He was met with silence, and he shouted it again. Not once did the spirit answer his call. After a few more verbose challenges, he broke into a bout of laughter, probably believing himself to look ridiculous. Apparently, not everyone who was watching felt the same, though. Nathan managed to stumble into bed not long after that, and he was out cold for a couple of minutes. Nathan had a security camera in his room in hopes of capturing proof, and that night he found something. At around 2:13 a.m., Nathan is seen being disturbed in his sleep in the security video. He grunts and speaks briefly, but the words were unintelligible. Suddenly, his eyes sprung open, and he popped up in the bed and began glancing around the room. Nathan appeared to be struggling, but his body was just not moving. He believed it was suffering an episode of sleep paralysis, which left him temporarily paralyzed. His eyes continued to dart rapidly around the room. Then something happened that in the video. Um, then something happened that no one who saw the video could explain. The bedroom door slowly rolled open. The darkness of the hallway was all consuming. Nathan's chest could be seen frantically pumping up and down, and his eyes stretched wide open. Something was seen moving in the hall. It couldn't be chalked up to a trick of the light. It could have been chalked up to a trick of a light, but then a hand was seen reaching out. It was gnarled and like a wretched malformed appendage from some sort of abyssal. I don't even know how to say that word. We'll just say demon. the figure, the figure slowly
Is it
sauntered.
demigog?
It says Denizen. Denizen. Yeah,
Denizen.
yeah. Sorry, I messed up the story. The figure slowly sauntered through the doorway. It was tall, dark silhouette, nearly grazing the top of the doorframe. It had no definite features, appearing only as a hooded humanoid individual, no eyes or face, just a shadow made corporal from Nathan's deepest nightmares. Poor Nathan was heard mumbling and whimpering frantically, but was still paralyzed and was unable to fight back or flee. He could do nothing but watch in absolute horror as the thing approached him, stopped at the foot of his bed, and just stared at him. Nathan continued to hyperventilate and didn't appear to blink during the entire ordeal. The thing that finally moved closer, it leaned only a inches away from his face and appeared to be whispering something. It was too quiet for the mic on the camera to pick up, but needless to say, it did not make Nathan feel anything better about the situation. Suddenly, the thing lashed out its twisted hands, constricting like pythons around Nathan's throat. In his paralyzed state, he couldn't even struggle against the attacker. With a minute Within a minute, Nathan's chest stopped moving and his eyes went still. The entity retracted its hands and just stared at him for about a minute. Then, as if taunting who would see the footage, it looked directly in the camera. It whispered something again, but again was too quiet to discern exactly what it was. And then, as quickly as it appeared, it waltzed out of the room and vanished into the darkness. Nathan was found by Janelle a few days later, and she called the police. And after our autopsy on Nathan was determined to have died via strangulation, much of what was shown in the video. Cops scoured the premises and found footprints from the intruder. However, the footprints were soon matched to a pair of Nathan's own boots. The police, of course, were not so quick to believe Nathan was simply killed by a supernatural force. They conducted interviews with neighbors, friends, and family members, but none of them seemed capable or motivated to have done it. There was no signs of breaking and entering, and nothing had been stolen from the home. They came to me and conducted an interview as well, but of course, that was a futile effort. I mean, sure, the fact that Janelle was my ex girlfriend was reason enough to suspect me, but I quickly dissuaded their accusations. Nathan was my friend. Despite him not really being a good friend, what kind of friend bones your girlfriend behind your back anyway? I'm not bitter about it, at least, not as far as the police are concerned. My alibis were solid, and that was good enough for them. That brings us to the final rule. Rule number 11. Make sure you exhaust all other options before coming to conclusion that your house is in fact haunted. If only Nathan had taken a little more time to investigate the home himself, then maybe he'd be alive today. Found the Maybe he would have found the mini wireless speakers hidden in his attic to play the sounds of knocking. Maybe he would have found the patches in the air
Mm-hmm.
ducts that leaked mild doses of drugs into his home. Maybe he would have detected the dog whistle alarm that caused the dogs to react so strangely. If he bothered to check himself, he may have found traces of a paralyzing toxin that, once ingested, would leave the person immobile and conscious to all the pain. It would have been difficult to find, but even the coroners do not normally test for the substance unless specifically requested. No matter how you really slice it, this entire ordeal comes back to Nathan himself. If only he'd be a better person and not constantly demean the peers at every turn. If only he'd been not so stubborn and proud. If only he had gone behind my back and boned my ex-girlfriend, thus ruining our future and sending me into the spiraling depths of crippling depression. Maybe then I would have helped him.
Or not murdered him.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, he kind of finishes off and saying, so maybe you're wondering, is this my confession? No, of course not. This is my list of suggestions and rules for how things would have turned out differently for Nathan and his family. These are all hypothetical explanations and are no way to be considered incriminating evidence to be used in court against me or anyone else for that matter. Besides, if this really was a confession, then that would make anyone who read it accessory to murderer, and we certainly wouldn't want that. I hope you can understand that, and I do hope that we trust each other in this regard. After all, I have really good software for tracing IPs, and the modern web makes it incredibly easy to access them. We wouldn't want your house to suddenly become haunted, would we? It's
That's funny.
a little bit different of a story.
Okay, so the most unbelievable part of that whole thing is that we're supposed to believe that like Nathan's like really shallow, right? Like
Right?
super super shallow.
Are you gonna?
Uh,
Are you gonna? Yeah, go ahead. I think I know what you're gonna
okay.
say.
But um he cares enough about his kids to comfort them. He
Mhm.
cared enough to bring his dog to the vet and be like, "Hey, something's going
Yeah,
on." And he kept a journal.
that's what I was gonna say.
I don't know a lot of like men who are
Yeah,
like that, that are that are reflective enough to keep a journal.
right.
Like,
He didn't put it in his journal.
and he put it in his journal, like
I
later from his journal. And I'm like, but you had video
yeah,
evidence. Why'd you check his
I
journal?
know.
But also, he
And
had a
how did
freaking journal.
and how did you have access to this journal? But I
Yeah,
guess like, yeah, I told you the story like before we went on air. I did kind of warn you it was a little bit of a far-fetched kind of thing, but I thought it
oh,
was a
for
neat
sure.
little twist.
It's
Um,
funny.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, sad funny, but funny. Yeah.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I stand by what I said in the beginning. The guy writing it sounds like the jerk here,
Yeah.
and I think that he was projecting all of his stuff onto Nathan
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
she left this guy because he was a murderous jerk.
Yeah.
Thank God. And then for like the more sensitive guy who keeps a journal and takes care of his family.
Yeah.
Like, what a jerk that guy is.
Yeah. Well, and that's sort of also like when you think about that type, a lot of times you do run into that where, they're so full of themselves, they don't see that the other guy is a nicer guy. Oh,
All
he's
the
so
time.
pompous.
Yeah, what a jerk he is. He
Yeah,
goes
took
to the gym and and treats his women nice. What a,
yeah, took my
it's
woman
like,
away from me. I'll
God,
teach
he actually
him.
loves his wife. Dork.
Yeah. Right.
Like
But
the kids call that there's new words now. I don't know if you've
yeah.
heard like simp.
Yeah.
Beta's out, simp is
Yeah.
in. If
Oh
you love
boy.
your wife, you're a simp. And I'm like,
Uh
what the hell is that? How insane.
yeah.
Ugh.
I
But yeah,
I don't even
that's
try.
the guy writing it, the murderer.
Yeah.
He's the simp.
Yeah. Well, and he's got a good long game. I mean, man, like, wait, like, how did he get it? There's so many things about this
That was a
story.
fun, yeah, that was
Yeah.
a fun writer though. Like
Yeah.
really good writing.
Yeah. Well, don't write him because he might try to kill you. Like,
Well, joke's on him. I can tell the difference between a ghost and not a
it's
ghost.
true.
So,
It's true. Um, yeah. So, I mean, some of the rules were kind of silly and far-fetched. I mean, too. But like, like kind of going back to one of them where he was talking about how, if he like, and I know at that point it was kind of turning to like the twist in the story, but like how like if he only like done his homework and kind of looked into it, but if you're that like male alpha guy, you don't believe that stuff anyway.
right.
And so like even if he like found all that evidence, but yeah, I don't think he'd find videotaping and wiretaps and drugs. Like it's like a Saw movie in that house,
Yeah.
you know?
It's so creepy.
Yeah.
Creepy. But no, yeah, good
Yeah.
writing. That was
Yeah.
fun. I like those kinds of like tales, with the little, twist at the end that of course we see coming, but
Yeah. Yeah.
the threat at the end though was
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's I've heard stories like that before where they're like you wouldn't want to, blah 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 blah, but
Yeah.
it's cool.
Well,
Um that was good. That was funny. That was a good story.
well, if you
Um
liked that, then jump onto Spotify or Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends.
okay, I
We,
will.
yes, Jess, you have not done this yet, and you're
Yeah,
the co-host. Like,
I
seriously,
know.
how
My
are we gonna
bad.
get, the listener?
I was waiting to see if I liked the podcast before I did that. And so now that we've
Now
been
we're gonna
doing
do
it
it.
for a year and a half, I think I will go and do that now.
Yeah. Did you like that I said the listener? Because the listener is not going to do it if we. So Frank, you really got to get on that. No, but if you're really interested in helping this show grow, then definitely give us a 5-star rating. And we want your stories. We have a couple, sort of fan stories hopefully coming up soon. We were just talking
Yeah,
about.
we have more people coming in. I'm really excited.
Yeah, and then we
Really
have
excited.
a couple little crossover shows too that we're going to be
Mm.
on another podcast upcoming, and we'll tell you more about that. And we're also going to probably put That Sounds Terrific and That Sounds Terrifying together for an interview with a really interesting story. So a lot coming
Terrifying?
up. Terrific, yeah, or terrifyingly terrific. I think that's like usually the way
Terrifying.
we go.
Oh, I like terrifying.
Terrifying or
Ter
terrificify? Yeah,
ter
yeah.
terrifying. Terrifying. No,
No.
I don't know. All
We'll
right,
let you work on
listen.
that, Jess, and then we'll
Ugh.
post about that. Okay. Um, but a lot of exciting things coming up, and
Yes,
I
very
really
exciting.
appreciate your story today. That was interesting, and gonna have to, make sure that we're really, really nice to our pig. We usually
Well,
are.
yeah, because he can kill you.
Yeah. Don't mess with
But
his friend chicken, Marshmallow.
no, poor baby.
But
Marshmallow is the name of your chicken.
it's like a Polish fancy chicken, one of the puffy looking white chickens.
Oh,
So
I love
they
those.
named him Marshmallow, and Pudge is, the pig.
Cute.
So Pudge and Marshmallow.
Pudge.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
Yeah.
his name was Fudge and Marshmallow,
That
then you could have a s'more.
Yeah, that's true. Pudge came well before the Marshmallow, so that
Ah,
already happened. But
very cute.
I will say that she doesn't really lay eggs anymore, but anytime she does, Pudge just eats them immediately. So,
Oh, well, those are expensive.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
you think she doesn't lay eggs anymore, but just eating
He's
them.
he's just eating them all, hoarding them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, all right. I think it's about that time, Jess.
Okay, it's about that time. Oh, what's a good spirit we should talk about today? What kind of
Hmm.
goes with this? A Jaeger bomb.
Yeah.
Because those were dude bros. I don't know if
Yeah.
dude bros still drink Jaeger bombs, but
These two.
whether it's a Jaeger bomb or ghosts, keep your spirits up.